Hey everybody, Alec Tackmann here. We're going through GoAndPractice Book 2, page 28, 7-stroke roll. So, this is my second take of this video because the first one was interrupted by the battery dying, so hopefully I can cover all the same topics. The 7-stroke roll. First, before getting into the book pages, let's just talk about what the 7-stroke roll is. Now, if you've done the 5 and 9-stroke roll from before, it's the same exact formula. You just count your double strokes until you get to the final tap at the end. So the 7-stroke roll is just 3 doubles and a tap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's the 7. Okay, now this roll is commonly played two ways. Once as a 16th triplet, the other as 16th notes. And we're going to start first with the triplet version of this. So now, usually when you see it this way, you'll see it in a piece. It looks almost just like an old 5-stroke roll, but there's a 7 over the top. And I've found with a lot of students, and I bust them on this because I used to do this myself, you just see that and play a 5-stroke roll anyway. Most people don't notice. Okay, no big deal. What's going on here is you're kind of cutting yourself short on the amount of rolls obviously in that space, and you're making your roll thinner than it was called to be. So a 7-stroke roll over the span of the 8th note is just going to go from either the downbeat to the upbeat or from the upbeat to the downbeat. So let's just start with play number 1 here. I'll play it for you. I'll play the first half of it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Now the trick here is getting that quick enough. This is a hard rudiment at fast speeds. Oh. You can see there. So this is a relatively new rudiment for me. I've known about it for a long time, and I would play it okay, but I didn't really start hitting this one hard until probably about a couple years ago. What finally did it for me was trying to get Steve Gadd's version of Crazy Army down. And I've known this piece since high school and messed around with it, but I had always cheated and done a 5-stroke roll instead of the 7. And I really admire the way he can just so fluidly and comfortably play the 7-stroke rolls in this piece. So what I did was a couple things. One, I would try to tackle the original piece. The other thing I would do is just make sure to noodle around with a 7-stroke roll all the time. So anytime I sit down, like on a drum, on a pad, even if I'm just drumming on my lap, sit and do the 7. I start with my left hand. Or you can go the other way too. And over the years, that adds up to be a lot of practice time. So when I'm trying to learn a new thing, sometimes when I want to practice it, I don't always make it a thing where I sit down and say, okay, I'm practicing this now and do it. I just kind of add it to my playing, and it kind of comes together in the form of me like failing at it over and over, and just kind of my little thing I play when I'm fidgeting around. The other way I started diving into the piece Crazy Army, I found on eBay the original publication of it. So this is the Company of Fifers and Drummers 1976 selections of historical, traditional, contemporary music. This is a pretty cool old book if you can get your hands on one. This is what appears to be very old, maybe back then it would have been photocopies of old traditional American snare drum pieces. And they also have the flute piccolo parts in there as well. But so in here is Crazy Army. There's also some kind of funny stuff to check out, like the original drum part to Yankee Doodle. There's a piece in there by Gus Moeller, which is the original Moeller technique guy. So anyway, I got this to get the original Crazy Army version, and then I just kind of decided, okay, I'm going to mess with this and play this book some more. This thing is packed full of 7-stroke rolls. They're all over the place, and this just must have been the rudiment of the time, the way to do that little lead-in of that kind of stuff. Tons of alternating flams with 7-stroke rolls. Same with the top of Crazy Army. But anyway, that must have been just the marching tempo back then, because I don't think that would work with today's, 120 BPM tempo. Everything is just 16th note subdivisions, but I think it's just also a cool rudiment for just historical American rudimental marching stuff. And I think it translates really well on the drum set, as Steve Gadd does. And it's definitely worth one checking out. So the top half of this page here, going back to the Go and Practice book, the top half is dealing with the 16th note subdivision version. So you're dealing with 1 and or 1 and 2. Okay, now that's the dense one. That's one you really got to cram the notes down hard for. Pushing with, for me, which is almost like a buzz stroke technique, where I'm gripping it in the front and mashing those down really, really hard. But if you go to the bottom half, this is, I think, the other way we see 7-stroke rolls, which is subdividing by a 16th note. And we have some really kind of funky looking rolls over 16th notes that when you first glance at them, they look like, okay, I gotta get my magnifying glass out and look at where's the start and stop and all this stuff. But there's kind of a couple characters you get used to seeing. Characters meaning, layouts of rolls and that. I like to think of reading as the same way you read words. You're just getting used to basically an alphabet, and from there you just combine it. But so if we look at number 7, this is a roll that begins on the E of the beat and then goes until the next downbeat. Before we were beginning the roll on the and of the beat, that means you had less time and you had to make a triplet to cram them in that space. So 1 and 2 and 1. This roll begins on the E of the beat. So 1 and 2 E and 1. Same sticking, same everything. It's slowed down. But really what happens is just stretch over a different subdivision. So number 7 is going to go on the end of 2, the E and 4. And that's a little more friendly for fast speeds. Number 8 is the same idea. It's the roll that begins on beat 1 and it ends on the of the beat, 1 E and This is what you're going to see in more modern snare drum pieces. And these kind of ideas, they're probably things you've already done on your own, just messing around. And if you're playing a roll and you want to throw in random taps, that kind of stuff, rolling in rhythm. Wilcoxon piece is a huge example of this. But yeah, these couple of ideas of how to play the 7-stroke roll, you want to get used to seeing it that way so you can sight read pieces a little quicker also. If we look at number 9, there's the 1 to the version of it again with the accent on the upbeat. This is the same way you see it in Alan Dawson's Rudimental Ritual. This is number 9. Number 10 is going to come out as accenting the downbeats. So when you see it that way, it doesn't seem like that crazy an idea. But this way of playing, I think, is just harder to read, but probably easier to play. And when you get to 11, that's combining the two ideas, 1 E and 2 E and a tap. And then we're getting into the rolling and rhythm concept. But anyway, there's some random thoughts, ideas on the 7-stroke roll. It's just kind of a funky, weird rudiment. I think it deserved to be in this book for that reason, and not the first one. Yeah, a little bit different technique needed, a little bit different way of thinking. But yeah, if you can get this one happen, it's got a really cool, that buzzy lead-in sound to a downbeat. Really cool effect. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you got any questions, just let me know. Or if you happen to be watching and have more information on this book, go ahead and send them in the comment section. It'd be cool to hear if anyone else is into this book. But if you haven't checked out my book, Go and Practice Book 2, please do. Thanks again for watching, and see you all in the next video.